Lean Six Sigma. So what exactly is it, and what can it do for you? So I'm going to describe it from a service industry point of view, hopefully in a way that we can all relate to. So we've all submitted an application or a claim or a form into a service environment, and then maybe wondered why it takes 14 days or 28 days for them to process one simple application or claim form. So I'll take you through it, hopefully in a quite simple and straightforward manner, so that you can see just what happens in these kind of environments and what Lean Six Sigma can help to do in these environments. So first of all, let's say this is your claim or your application form. Goes into Service Center, Processing Center, and it's processed by these people here. Then it moves along, needs to be seen by someone else. Unfortunately, it's got to sit in a queue because there's a bit of a backlog in that part of the process. So it sits there and waits for the next person in the process to do their part of it. So the first part, they'll probably register it on the system. The second part may do an initial assessment or a triage. Then it moves maybe to the main processing part, but again there's a backlog in here, there's a bit of a queue before the people in that part of the process pick it up, and then they'll decide, does it go this way or does it go this way? If it goes this way, it still ends up back here, but there'll be an additional step in here just in case that part of the process needs to be looked at by maybe an expert set of eyes. Then from there it'll move on to another part of the process, maybe the people who actually make the decision on it. Now what they may discover here is we've got some errors caused by this part of the process, so we've got to send some of these back. But the rest of them, again, there's a little bit of a backlog. Once they've been processed through that part, they can move on to the next part of the process. Again, there's a backlog, and again, they might just find some errors. Those errors, they'll pass back to the previous part of the process, and they'll have to wait to go all the way through the system once again before they finally come down here to the final part of the process. And these could be the people that actually put the responses or replies into envelopes and post them back out to you. Now when we look at the time the actual process took, first part 6 minutes, second part 15 minutes, then 20 minutes, then 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 12 minutes, 9 minutes, and a further 3 minutes. Total time to complete the whole process, 75 minutes maximum. But the problem we have with that is your application has to sit for a day right at the front end waiting for someone to pick it up and register it. Then it goes into a queue for 2 days, wait for the next part of the process, then into a queue for 4 days for the next part, and then half a day, and then another half a day, and then a day. And if it happens to be one of these that has an error, it'll go all the way around this loop again. Similarly here, another 4 days. Here, these guys don't have as much of a backlog, so it'll only take them half a day. So In this instance, it will take 13.5 days as a minimum to get through that whole process, even though the actual work content is only around 75 minutes. Now, these errors here are caused by variation in processing at these points. So it's taking 13.5 days for the piece of work to get through the process unless it has an error. Now, the current error rate in this process is 10%, which is quite high. Now, that 10% is caused by each of these people in the various parts of the process doing it a slightly different way, because they've all got their own special ways of doing it, and they all think they have the best way of doing it. Unfortunately, not all of them can be the right way, and there is only one best way of carrying out a process. And when people deviate from that, you get errors and you get variation in the process. Now, as you can see here, we've got quite a big build-up of work in progress, inventory, waiting times and delays and backlogs in the process. Now, some of that is caused by excessive handoffs. There'll be other waste in there whereby people have to move these items around within the process. So you've got motion. They'll have to transport these applications or claims from one place to another. We've got errors in there. We've potentially got some over-processing with a lack of standardization, because these guys are all doing it slightly differently, and therefore each customer gets a slightly different customer experience as it works through the process. And then you've got your variation in here, which leads to errors and rework going back through the whole process. So you've got something there that takes 75 minutes in total to complete the process, but it takes 13.5 days in the eyes of the customer to get from one end to the other. There's an error rate of 10%, which the customer also feels. So what can we do about that? This is where Lean Six Sigma comes in. So we standardize the way all these guys do the work, thus helping take away some of that variation, reducing that error rate to below 1%. We've redesigned the process in line with the lean principles so that we're taking out a lot of the waste. There's far less transportation, far less inventory, far less motion, waiting times are down, over processing, overproduction are down, fewer defects. So we've actually reduced the processing time from 75 minutes down to 60 minutes, and also taken that customer lead time down from 13.5 days down to 3.5 days. That's what Lean Six Sigma can do for you.